are live. We had a very, very full agenda tonight, as you can tell by the fullness in the room. Hello Romeo. Before we get going on our cases, I'm gonna start with, yeah, no, I know he's not. I'm going to start with introductions, and then we have an alternate, a new person seeking to be an alternate. So we're going to cover that before we get into the cases, so that he, if he's approved by the board, can be sitting in and part of the discussion on the cases, okay? So I will start with introductions to my left.
Kevin Bassett, alternate.
Bonnie Winona McKinnon.
Teresa Bascom.
Terry Bonzer.
Romeo Dene.
And Mr. DeRocher, Robert DeRocher, is in the back of the room, and he is asked to be a alternate. We are allowed up to 5 alternates by our state regulations, and it's helpful for Kevin to have an extra person to rely on, because sometimes we do have members that are out. And our desire is to always have a full board, so that your case is properly heard and vetted by the membership. So is there any objection from any of the board members? If not, I would entertain a motion to appoint Bob DeRocher to a 3-year term as an alternate.
I'll move to appoint Bob DeRocher as an alternate.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Mr. Bob DeRocher as a alternate for the zoning board for a period of 3 years. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Nay. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members, 5, 0, 0. All right, Bob, would you step forward, please? And just so you're aware, a member of any of the land use boards is required to have an oath of office. I'm gonna quickly do this with him so that he can be official on our board for this evening. Raise your right hand, and I, Robert DeRochers,
I, Robert DeRochers,
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all duties incumbent upon me
and perform all duties incumbent upon me
as a zoning board alternate
as a zoning board alternate
for a term of 3 years,
for a term of 3 years,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeably to the rules and regulations
of the state of New Hampshire's Constitution
of the state of New Hampshire's Constitution
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I will sign this and give that to you afterwards.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully we'll get through to all of you tonight. If time runs out, we will have to postpone somebody, but hopefully not. The rules and procedures are that I've called the session in order. I will call each case up and read the case definition, having the applicant come forward. Members of the board may ask questions at any point during your testimony. I'm going to ask, especially with the fact that we have a very tight board tonight, that when you come up, you give a synopsis. Do not reread everything you've written down for us, because we've read it. So just give a 3-minute overview of your case and why you are here before us tonight. Okay, we will ask further questions if you need clarification. Each person who appears shall be required to state their name and address, and please don't speak from there. Come up to the table, sit down, state your name and your address so that we have it for the record. And then you indicate your affiliation to the case. We're going to be calling people to, after the applicant has had their say and we've had our discussion with them, we'll ask those in favor to come and speak for the case. And then it would be any opposed to it, and then we have the applicant come back up. And at each point, if you're approaching the table, you state your name and your address. Are there any questions? Okay, so we'll start with the first case, which is a continuing case. It's 23-008BA, Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road. Cindy and Des, all right, forward. They are requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A, and Article 2, Section C6 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the building of a replacement residential structure with less than the minimum 20-foot setback on two property lines and exceeding the maximum height of 34 feet. The property is located at 36 Whites Grove Road in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 63, lot 61. Welcome back. Okay, so since you were here last time, we did hear back from Dale Silva. He states that he was not the code enforcement officer at the time. It was a interim, and he states the denial still exists. He would like to add some missing information for clarification. In regards to the height is determined by measuring the four corners and midpoint and taking an average. Based upon this, the applicant may meet the height and does not need a variance. We also put forward a request to the fire chief with regard to that, and he states, after speaking with the homeowners, it looks like the average height falls within the town of Nottingham ordinance. So we don't need to consider that for the variance, according to these two folks. For the setbacks, we measure the property line to foundation. Typically, we do not count the eaves. However, this may play an effect for any type of bump out or cantilever involved. In this case, the chimney would count on side D and a bump out on side C. He states, side A is 6 feet from the property line, side B 18 feet from the property line, side C 15 feet from the bump to the shoreline, side D 7 feet from the property line to the chimney, and our ordinance for non-conforming lots is 20 feet on all front, rear, and sides. So your full structure is greater, requires a variance from the board because none of them meet the requirements of the 20-foot setbacks. Anybody here have any comments? Kevin, you're not seated tonight, but you are still involved in the discussion as much as you'd like to be. You just can't be a voting member, okay?
Understood.
I know, because you were part of the first case, you might have comments.
I may.
Anybody? Do you guys have anything to add?
Yes, just briefly, my name is Sean Dunphy. I'm an attorney from Cronin, Bisson and Zielinski here on behalf of the Stevens. The letter from the code enforcement officer, Dale Silva, under number 2, there was a little miscommunication. He took the possible options that Mr. Stevens presented to him, and that's not what we're looking for relief. What we're looking for relief is on the plan that was presented to the board, which we have a copy of if the board would like it again. But do you want to explain?
My name is Dennis Stevens, and I'm a resident at 36 Whites Grove Road in Nottingham. I went to see Mr. Silva today and went over the plans with him to discuss the setback distances on each property line. And and whether or not we were measuring that to the foundation, or to the fireplace, or to the second floor bump out, or to the eaves. He said, the practice is we measure to the foundation, or any bump out that is significant, but usually he doesn't look at the eaves. So, he said normally when he issues a denial letter, he would make it clear to the board what each dimension is that requires a variance. So this was his attempt. However, when he was going through the plan, he was looking at an option B, and I was going through several different scenarios of where we could position the building with him. And at this time, we don't want to change the application unless the board asks us to, so we're going back to the original dimensions. The only ones that are different, the side A and the side C dimensions are okay. That was 6 feet and 15 feet on the water line, 6 feet on the frontage and 15 feet on a water line. The north and south changes. We were asking for 3.75 feet in our application, and the Plan B option was 7, so he put down 7. And on the Plan B side, which is the southern side, the opposite side of that, we were asking for 19 feet, and he put down 18 feet. What happened, to explain how that happened, is that the option B that we were formulating, this is strategizing with Mr. Silva, was moving the building 1 foot away from the north property line. And that's why it went from, on the south property line, went from 19 to 18. The reason it went from 3.75 feet to 7 is that in addition, we removed the portico and made the fireplace smaller. So that increased that bump out. If anybody wants to explore those, the option B here, great, but at this point, we'd like to stay on the application, so that there's no miscommunication.
So what you're saying, I'm trying to understand, are you telling me that what Mr. Silva has written for denials here is incorrect because it's based off of a Plan B when you are
Plan B.
sticking with Plan A? So, I don't,
So they'd like a variance on Plan A.
correct, except that the denial letter is based on Plan B.
You wanna add?
Is the height in number 1 different between Plan A and Plan B?
No,
That may or may not help the board.
It's just a clerical error.
Well, it isn't, it's a misunderstanding on the part of the
He looked at the wrong plans.
pardon me?
He looked at the wrong plans.
No, they presented 2 plans to him,
He didn't say which one was.
what they were preferring to go with.
I guess my point is, number 1, he does say that the applicant may meet the height.
Pardon me?
If the height is the same, number 1 specifically.
Correct.
He says that it may meet, and between
Correct.
Plan A and Plan B, there's no change, so number 1 still may apply.
Yes, but we talked with the fire department though on that, and they were the main concern on the height of the building.
Understood.
Does anybody else have anything?
May I just add something to kind of clarify how we got to this point? So the prior code enforcement officer, who was the interim, gave us an original denial letter based on our Plan A. So we do have a denial letter based on that, which is why this application was brought to begin with. So the second one was just trying to coordinate with the new code enforcement officer. So we do have the original denial letter and what we asked for in the original application.
The issue with the original denial letter was that it states there shall be a property lines, water edge, described in a dwelling, da-da-da. I missed 50 feet, 20 feet for grandfathered or non-conforming lots. And the existing setbacks are approximately 15 feet. It doesn't go into any detail on any of them at all in that denial letter,
Sure. And
stating which ones are off or anything.
Right, and then we provided the plans as well, with our original application that show the relief we're requesting now, which I can provide to anyone who doesn't have one, so we did try to show that in the beginning.
And
The difference between the two plans is literally, and we actually prefer Plan B, is literally moving the building 1 foot south so that we can relieve the proximity of the north boundary, that we were asking for a 3.75 foot variance for the portico. Okay, the building is actually moving further away. The building wall and foundation is actually moving further away from the north property line. But the portico that's just over the door and the fireplace, okay, bump out from the building, and those require, that's where the setback is measured from. So the building was 8 feet, and it went to approximately 9 feet away from the property line, but the portico going over the doorway encroached up to 3.75 feet. So what we did for Plan B is we moved the building another foot away from the north property line, deleted the portico, and shrunk the fireplace.
except, you're saying that, but I'm looking at your
And that's what,
proposal, your variance, that you guys wrote up, I'm sorry, you folks, please forgive me. And you state that a setback of 12 feet is proposed on the front, 3.75 on the north side, 14 on the south, and 15 on the rear. Your 15 is the only one that matches Dale's. And it's, instead of 18 feet, we've got 12, instead of, I don't know, one of them is 14 now, and the other one is 3.75, which is closer than any of the ones that Dale mentions. So I'm confused as to what we are looking at. Does anybody, can anybody on the board clarify for me what I'm missing? Or are you all
What-
in the same boat?
I think that, I wasn't here in the last
Correct.
meeting, so I missed all the discussions. But it sounds to me like they presented Plan A, and somehow Dale is discussing the other one.
Because they brought Plan A and B to him to discuss them.
Why did he pick only one to mention? Why did he pick only one to mention if they brought in two? That's my question.
Because it sounds like that's the one he thought they were gonna go with.
if, since there's confusion on this, if the board would entertain looking at Plan B and using that one for your review, and,
We need to review what it is you plan to build.
Right.
And we need to know what those dimensions are for what you plan to build, where it falls in, because I'm getting from you that the dimensions that Dale has stated are more in line with what they plan to be, except the dimensions for Plan A, which you presented to us, are, in my opinion, far different from what Dale lists, and yet you say that is what you plan to build, so I'm at a loss as to what we are exactly looking at here.
Did you give us Plan B?
I have not given you Plan
Okay,
B.
I
I
didn't
have
think-
it, I have it, if you'd like to see
It
it,
doesn't
but.
really matter, because we need to know what you plan to build.
Right.
When you come here and present to us, you need to present to us what you are planning to build, and that's what we go by. It's not supposed to be this, well, okay, well, we'll look at this plan, and well, okay, we'll look at this plan. Everybody else that's sitting here waiting for their case is hopefully going to be bringing to us what they plan to build and what they want for relief as far as the setbacks go. That's what we go by, that's what I need.
Right.
Not the, well, okay, then let's look at this, cause we've received now from you at least 3 different setback, changes. And I need for all of us to be able to say yes or no, so that your neighbors and anybody else down the road,
Just to clarify again, our application is Plan A. We plan to build Plan A. If we can get the approval from this board, we will build Plan A. When I was talking options and with the building inspector, and he said he would write a letter to this board, he used a different plan.
but
So how do we move from here? I mean, if we're trying to explain why that happened and what those numbers should be, but without the building inspector here, we can't.
And I don't know how different those plans are without the building inspector giving us a denial based on a particular plan.
Right.
You're telling me one thing, but his letter is what goes in your packet. His letter is the one that will stand for a legal review based on your plan design. So that if this gets contested at all, it's his letter. But you're telling me his letter doesn't match your plan, so I don't see where we can do anything for you tonight.
Right.
I think.
His letter was a clarification of a letter that had no information in it. So, the attempt was to get that information to you, and it was based off the wrong plan. So
Correct.
I would suggest that we continue this to the next month.
Correct. No, 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 no. I'm sorry, I'm not entertaining any comments from the public.
This is my second time coming. The application has had, the applicants had 3 tries to show that the statute would be satisfied. Not in writing, not in either hearing, has the applicant attempted to address the 5 criteria. Whether it's Plan A, Plan B, or whatever monkeying around is intended, they haven't even met the basic test. Under A and B, they're expanding a non-conforming use. Statute has 5 criteria, they need to meet all 5.
We are aware of that. As board members, we know that they need to,
How many times do we have to come back? My life's mission isn't to thwart somebody.
I understand that, but if this was your case and we were doing this for you, you would,
Actually, my case was a couple of years ago, and I was required to stick to my footprint. I was not allowed to expand a non-conforming
You
use.
did not, I looked up your case, you
Yeah,
did not
I
come
did
in
too.
before us for any kind of variance, you came in because a tree had fallen on your house. You
No.
kept it the same size, so you were misleading us last
all
time
right,
you were here.
I don't,
Thank you.
Hey, wait a minute, excuse me,
misspoken.
excuse me.
I
You
looked at the
are
record.
out of order, you are out of, you are out of order.
This is out of order.
I don't know of any, please,
I did not misspeak. You should
please be
check your
quiet.
records. Dale will remember my.
Sit down or we are going next door to get the police, okay? That is enough. I am sorry you are being inconvenienced. I don't know of any other way of handling this other than to just deny the whole case and start over, but we're not doing that with them because we haven't had a chance to look at what is going on. So I will entertain an order from the group for either denial or a continuance to next month.
I'll make
And be
a
aware that-
continuance.
Be aware that the date for the next month's meeting currently sits at September 19th. We will be changing that date this evening because that happens to be the date of a special election, and several of us will be on that election working. So, I don't have the date at the moment, which means we can't do a date certain, which means we actually need to talk about that at this point.
Motion's made for continuance.
But pardon me?
Unless we do a special meeting, we could, like we did the people.
Right, that's what I'm saying, we need to pick a date for that now, that special meeting for September, if we're going to see this in September. Somebody wanna look at the calendar, tell me what works for you for September meeting? Because the 19th is not going to be the September meeting.
I'm going to Italy in September.
26 is, that's the
It's
next
the
Tuesday, right?
following
Yeah.
Tuesday,
I
the
mean, We
26th.
can go either back or forward.
Either way, it's gonna hit with me and,
Oh.
just
Does it have to be a Tuesday? Yes.
Yes, it does for me. Is Wednesday is planning board. Any date, okay with you?
Too far out, but just pick one.
Okay, Kathy?
The 12th or the 26th.
I leave for Italy on the 27th, so the 26th is a little tight,
But the 12th would work.
yes.
12th or the 26th?
Well, it's fine with me.
12th or 26th, good for you, Romeo.
I think I'm in Las Vegas. But it's on a conference. I'm gambling.
I'm 12th or 26th, either
All
one
right,
works.
so 12th, all right, so September 12th. Okay, now we will entertain a motion for denial or a
Oh.
motion to continue for the September 12th, which will be, Alana, you've got that down for our change in date, please?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that we continue this case to September 12th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we continue case 23008 VA Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road, to September 12th at 7 PM. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, it's 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Please get your eggs in order. We have to make a decision, one way or another, next meeting.
Right.
There
And
will
get
be
your-
no more graces given, okay?
And get your stuff in early so we can look
Yes.
at it.
Deliverables are delivered the week before the meeting so that Alana gets it to us that week prior. Nothing last minute, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The second case we are listening to tonight is case 23-010 VA, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right,
Fiorenza.
Fiorenza?
Fiorenza.
Fiorenza, well, I'm French, not Italian. It's an application from Richard Fiorenza Jr. requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance in order to build a new construction home. Proposed setbacks for both the primary building and septics are less than what is stated in the zoning ordinance. The property is located at 28 Cove Road in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 68, lot 73. Now, on this one, we do have a building permit denial from Dale, and it says that the structure will be 5.65 feet from the front property line. Structure will be 15.7 feet from the side property line. Septic will be 5.2 feet from the property line, and the septic tank will be approximately 6 feet from the road. State your name, your address, and briefly let us know what your case is, please.
Sure. My name is Richard Fiorenza. I live at 28 Cove Road in Nottingham on the Lake. And I'm looking to replace a home that my grandparents built in the 50s. My mom grew up there with 4 brothers and sisters year-round. It's an old place that was not properly built, so it can't necessarily be renovated. And we're looking to replace it with a newer, modern home. My parents bought the home for my grandparents when I was young, and I bought it for my parents about 14 years ago. So it's been in the family for about 70 years. We're the original residents of the property. We cleared it. And we're looking to replace it. The current home, squared off, meaning there's a bump out for where the bathroom is 32'9" wide by 42'9" deep. That's foundation to foundation. We're looking to put a home that is 32 by 42, so 9 inches smaller on both dimensions, going up a second story, so a 2-story home with an unfinished basement, and looking to the photos of the, do you have the?
We do.
Yeah, the photos. So on the side where the entrance is currently a driveway. And we're looking to move the structure 4 feet to the right and we're looking to pivot clockwise approximately 6 feet to better fit into the lot, to pivot away from the water, and to allow the entrance and to still be able to utilize that driveway in that same footprint. So the existing house and the new house, the footprint is basically the same, we're just pivoting it slightly to try to fit it better into the smaller non-conforming lot. So I included a couple pictures of each of the denials.
So these are yours?
Those are my photos. The one piece that I heard in the previous case, I had talked to the building inspector, I worked with Pete Landry, and he said that a lot of the towns that he works with, they measure to the eaves. So I
Yes.
called the building inspector, they said eaves. I think the last case, you
Let's not go there.
mentioned
Every-
foundation.
Every case is its own.
Okay,
Let's-
all my stuff is eaves.
Okay.
If I have to the foundation, I have extra space.
Okay, no,
But,
we've
okay.
always gone with eaves too, I have no idea why that was.
Okay. I don't know if you want any explanation, that the one piece in this picture
The one that shows the Cove Road
shows
denials.
coming down the road and my home is on the left.
Okay,
Those cars are my cars, the trailers on the left are my trailers, the clothes yard there and that picture and the next picture have been there since the 50s. That area is, part of that area is, in the original plans, that was Cove Road, but that's not actually where Cove Road is. Cove Road is where you drive in.
this way.
Yes. The plans from 100 years ago show the road where the cars are.
Okay,
So when, in 1A, in the second picture, the one with the grill, the existing house is 10 feet from the property line or the wall. The new house is getting 4.5 feet closer to that, but it's still gonna be 28 feet from the edge of Cove Road.
okay.
So a couple of the denials, the septic tank is denial 3. Those pictures show where the tank is gonna be and where the actual road is. So it's about 15 feet in the middle of the tar driveway that my grandfather put in.
That's this one.
But in the original plans, it says it's a lot closer to the property line and the road.
But it is 20 feet.
Well, it's approximately, I mean, you can't really, it's not a tar road with a line that you can see the edge, but measured this barrel, which is where the tank is going, to the road. And there's a couple pictures you can see coming down the road. This last picture coming down the road, this is my neighbor's property here, who's here tonight. And that's the actual road, and where my car is in this picture is where the tank is gonna go to pump the septic. So that's what, I included a bunch of those pictures, cause it gives more flavor of what does it actually look like as opposed to just 5 feet from the property line or.
Yeah.
So it's a holding tank, there's no leach field
The
design?
the leach field is gonna be pumped up. That existing septic is underneath the shed, which is within the neighbor's well radius. And it's put in by my grandfather a million years ago, so it definitely is not complying.
Sure.
We're gonna be moving it up back under the clothesline. That's denial 2. Underneath the clothesline, they're putting in an AOS system, which is about 75% smaller than the EnviroSeptic. And allegedly, you can drink the water that comes out of the end. I'm not serving that, when you guys come over after, but, it's the most expensive, most, efficient for space. And concrete, so it can be driven on, it can be plowed, it can be, all of that stuff, and that's significantly away from all of the neighbors' wells and the road.
So to say it simply, you're going from the leach field from the far right to the far left.
Yes. And that's one of the variances that, John, who's the neighbor on the other side, who was also here, it's gonna be within 5 feet of his property line, the leach field is.
How is the effluent treated?
In the, currently or in the AOS system?
Yeah, in the OS system.
I'm not exactly an expert in septics, but it is the, kind of the premier septic. It's a mini treatment plant, so it comes out of the house into 3 tanks in the driveway, underneath the driveway. It goes into a pump tank and then is pumped up into the leach bed. And it has to be, unlike most septics, it actually has to, it requires a contract that needs to be serviced once a year. There's a compressor, and it, allegedly from their marketing campaign, that you can drink the water that comes out the other end. But it is the most expensive option that's used mainly around lakes on non-conforming lots with small footprints.
This is a chemical treatment situation?
Not a chemical treatment, no.
You know about it?
I know some about, yeah, it has air, it has a bubble.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not natural treatment, but
Yeah, there's no additional chemicals or anything that go in that would be leached into the water. When I bought the property from my parents 14 years ago, my ex-wife and I were going to rebuild within 2 years. So we actually got town and state approved septic in the old, the Enviro septic, which was significantly larger, in this same exact spot. John signed off on it at that point, because it was also close to his property line. And then things didn't work out, and we ended up not doing it, but that's long since expired. But now we're trying to obviously redo it now, and it requires, you know, they're looking at a smaller, the smallest available footprint, which is this AOS system. It's about 2.5 times as expensive as a standard system.
Can you, specific to number 1, 5.65 feet from the front, can you tell us what the number is now with the existing house?
So the existing one, on this photo here, the building to the line, where they say the line is 10 feet.
Okay.
So it's gonna be 4.5 feet from this wall.
Understood. And then from the side, 15.7?
So on the, that's now 1B. So down front. So the existing house is here. The new house is going to be 4 feet to the right. It's gonna be 4 feet closer along this little wall.
Yeah.
And then it's
So
gonna.
that implies the original dimension would be 19.7?
And then the overhang.
Okay.
There's the 15 inch overhang.
Yep.
Which this is measured to, which the front of that porch there has probably a 2-inch
Understood.
overhang.
And
Then
you-
we're gonna hold that point and rotate the house about 6 feet away from the lake, clockwise.
And then you stated the foundation size essentially isn't changing.
It's getting 9 inches, if you square it off, so if you see that, you know, that bathroom in the back, we're squaring that off. It's gonna be 9 inches narrower and 9 inches, 9 inches both ways smaller.
So essentially not changing. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions?
I mean, you say the house is 32 feet wide, but that's just those 2 little bump outs that are 32, right? On the house, according to the tax map, card.
Let's see the pictures. So on the, let's see. this picture here,
Yeah,
the denial-free Cove Road down the driveway, the 32 feet is measured above where the love nest is, that's a porch,
yeah,
about a 10-foot long porch. And then there's a deck behind it to get into the rear entrance. Those are about equal. So if you measure left to right along the water line, it's 32 feet from the porch to the other side of the house, or from the deck to the other side of the house. So there's a little section in between
right, it
this deck and this porch.
goes in, like,
Yes.
yeah,
And then on the back, where you see that the bump out is the actual bathroom. So this is the bathroom on the back, and then there's a square here that has nothing, and a square on the other side that also has.
We actually walked
That's
past
nothing.
that house, remember? We actually walked past this one, times,
Yeah.
another case we did.
When we,
Anybody else have anything? For the moment, no?
Are the 5 criteria gonna be read?
We have those, asked to,
I put that in a separate sheet.
yes. I've asked not to have all those read because we have them to have had them to review. So
Understood,
in,
just asking?
yeah, nope, that's okay. It's just in order to move the cases along tonight, I figured it would be, behoove us not to have them read verbatim, but you can summarize your, variances are granted based on, or denied, based on meeting the 5 criteria. One of them being hardship, and in the, do we have them written here somewhere? 5 criteria. Not contrary to the public interest, if it was granted, the spirit of the ordinance would still be observed. Substantial justice is done. The value of surrounding properties are not diminished, and all y'all always say that, no, it brings everybody's values up. And little enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. So, one of the kickers most often is that unnecessary hardship. What, there is a house on there, what is the hardship here for you? So that's the one that is often the most difficult to, actually have proof for.
Sure. Should I go through each of the 5, or do you want me just to answer the hardship question? What would be best?
What would you all like?
I think the hardship is the crucial and the most difficult. So,
I don't know if anyone knows Delmer McDermott or the name, but the 28 Cove Road is the house that Mac built. So my grandfather was not a home builder, but he was motivated. So he built the house not really to code. The studs are not 16 inches on center, so if you shake your foot at the kitchen table, the whole floor shakes. It's a dirt basement, and there was no drainage put in, so whenever it rains, water runs through the actual basement. It is, a lot of the equipment, the hardwood floor is a bowling alley floor that was used, so a lot of it is used. It can't be refurbished, and my parents grew up, my mom grew up here, I grew up here, my kids grew up here, so this is a kind of a legacy property that I'll either die in or my kids will take, and we're looking to have, a nice home as opposed to the, probably my favorite place in the world, but it would be nice if it didn't smell like mold from the basement and was a more modern home, protecting the lake with a septic that isn't almost 70 years old, that's just basically crushed stone in the ground, that we can get that from going into the lake, get it away from neighbors' well radiuses, and improve the value of the area.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Are you currently living in this place?
I'm, for the summer.
Okay, good. But you mentioned your mom grew up in that whole house.
Yeah, I mean, it's a year, right? It has a well and full heating system and all that stuff. I live in Dover and go back and forth with the kids.
Okay.
Now, in your existing, the reason you got the 5.65, that's because you're rotating it? Is that what, that's what caused the corner to come back further?
Yes.
Okay. And so you pushed, what are you on that 15.7 now? What are you on the front?
The foundation is 4 feet closer to John's side. And then there's an overhang that's 15 inches, so that's what takes that into account.
That's a 15, but what's the existing house?
Existing house is, 5 feet 3 inches less, cause it's the 4 feet plus the 15.
You mean closer or further away?
So that's what I asked.
Oh, yes.
It's 19.
I'm moving 4 feet closer to John's property line.
You're moving further.
Asking to, yes,
So you're actually, that corner is probably close to 20 now. but
yes.
Which is what?
Yeah, it's about 21.
21, okay.
So maintaining the actual footprint or where that place is puts you closer to being within the boundaries all the way around.
I thought you were rotating it,
Can't
so,
take the
so
setback.
puzzle how the back corner gets closer and that corner gets closer.
So so 1A is the back corner. 1B is moving it 4 feet to the right. So the reason I'm moving it, in order to get into the house, if I put the entrance on the back of the house, it's gonna get even closer to the road. The design of the house doesn't allow the entrance into, that's the bedroom, doesn't allow the entrance into the back. If I put it onto the side, there's a driveway that's also a boat ramp that's been there since the 50s. The picture that shows, this picture here down the driveway. The new entrance of the house is going to be on that side, or is proposed to be on that side. Proposed to be on that side, but if we move it 4 feet over, we'll be able to get off the deck. And then if we rotate it, we'll be able to get in and out of the door, and the existing driveway will be able to be maintained.
So that essentially what you're saying is, in order to build this, you need to be 4 feet closer and less in line with setbacks. But, because you don't wanna change any of this, correct?
We tried to put the back stairs on the back of the house, and that makes it even closer.
But this, your hardship is the fact that you want this design, and that's why you need the encroachments. And that's why you're encroaching. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not sure if I 100% understand the question.
Your current house.
Yes.
Those setbacks are more in line with the 20, 20, 20, all the way around. But because you want to build this, you're moving closer on one side to your neighbor by 4 feet, because you want to build this design and not have your entrance either on the rear or the front or something else.
Sure. The back currently is 10 feet from the property line, so the back is already non-conforming.
And it will remain how close?
It's getting 4.5 feet closer.
So then it's going to be
So that is,
6 feet.
that is denial 1A. So this one here, existing is 10 feet.
And you're going closer, so it's gonna be 6 feet
565, and 28 feet from the actual road.
rear.
And how about the lakeside?
Distance,
Yeah.
distance to the lake,
Yes, how is it now and how will it be?
it's gonna be further from the lake, and it's over 30 feet from the lake.
He's moving back.
Yeah, so what Pete said
That's
is,
because of this.
is that Shoreland wanted it further away from the lake if possible. That's why we're attempting to rotate it as well, to actually match the shoreline as well.
All right, anybody else have any other questions? Okay, if you'll step back, please. All those in if you're in a butter speaking in favor of this, please come up to the table, state your name and your address, please. And this is for someone who is speaking in favor.
Yes, I'm John Kane, I live at 26 Cove Road, and I'm the one that signed off on the variances for both the septic and the house changes. And, you know, truth be told, where my property is, if his house was moved on the property line, and the septic was on the property line, it wouldn't cause any hardship. Now, I don't know how that falls in line with the well and all that stuff, but I have no problem with it, and if he were to move the house actually on the property line, it wouldn't be a big deal. I know there's variances and all that stuff, 20 feet and all that, but it's, where my house sits and all that, it's not a huge deal. So that's why I signed off on it. Plus, I've been living next to him for 25 years, no problems at all, you know, good neighbors and all that stuff, and the septic really is the only thing, and that's underground, and as long as it's not actually physically on my property, I don't care how close it is.
Okay.
All right?
Anybody have any questions for her? No? All right. Anyone else speaking for the case?
Yeah, I'm Tom Hall. I abut him on 30 Cove Road. I'm on the opposite side, so there's no variances on my side. Our family's been abutters for about 70 years, so I'm all for it.
Okay.
That's all I have to say about it.
Which lot number? Which,
What's my lot? I'm 30 Cove Road.
30, okay.
Yep.
Any questions?
Nope.
No? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, can you come back to the table, please? Anybody have any other comments? Questions? Bonnie?
No, it seems to me that he's moving his house away from the lake, which is better for the lake, and he's moving his septic system in compliance with low radiuses, which it now is not. It's really an improvement in terms of the neighborhood and in terms of his own using property, plus the house that exists is not really. His grandfather was a bit of a carpenter hack.
Well, that's what most of the New England homes are, and almost
That's
every
not
house.
true. That is not true.
And a
I
lot of-
lived in an 1890 house that was built by expert carpenters.
Well, okay, expert, few.
But, they're always skilled carpenters, but I think it seems like a positive change to the neighborhood.
Kathy, anything?
No, just the existing driveway is getting torn up and you're putting in a new driveway, correct?
Which is not gonna be a well, it's going to get destroyed with the,
Right.
with the, you know, the tracked machinery. I don't believe, it's not gonna be I mean, right up at the road, will probably be a tar driveway. And then probably, some of those grass, the pavers that the grass can go through, and they're,
Permeable.
yes, so that the water, there's a lot of water that comes down that hill. And, yeah, Pete said that would be the best thing to put in, but that's kind of after the home gets in, and then we figure out, okay, exactly what type of those pavers we can put in that look nice and replace that tar driveway.
And you're not doing anything with the well, the existing well? It looks like the existing well is down towards the water.
Existing well is right in the back. It is right under the bird bath in this picture. Right in the back of, well, you consider the back of the house, meaning the roadside. So that's the drilled well right now. It has to be relocated, and the proposed location is down by the water, which is down the driveway to the right, is the proposed location.
Will it be a drilled well?
Drilled well, yes. The current well is a drilled well, but the,
New
with the new septic and
Yeah.
things like that. The new wells can be put in, with can be grouted and can have, casing put in, so they can be much closer if there's no other option. I asked, could they just put casing in the existing well, cause it's been great for all these years, and they said no. So we have to put a new well in.
What does AOS mean? Is that the name of the company, or is that a designation of some type of septic system?
That is the name of the company that also designed and provides the septic.
Thank you.
To augment Bonnie, he's maintaining the same footprint.
Okay.
Smaller,
Terry, anything?
by 40. By 40.
9 inches both sides.
All right, if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
Close the public.
I will close the public hearing, and now I entertain a motion. Thank you. I forget that all the time, sorry.
I move that we approve case number 23-0110 VA Fiorenza, 28 Cove Road, as presented.
Second.
We should at least state, you know, he gave us a plot plan. We should probably, I mean, cause on
I took it off of.
his request, he has nothing.
Yeah, true.
It's just blank.
Well, I had the address. That's,
Right, no, but I mean, he gave us a plot plan, we should refer to the plot plan of, you know, that this is what we're approving, this plot plan, this, you know, 5.65, 13.5,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
15.7, and 20, well, the other one doesn't need
is
one.
it this one?
No,
No, he
Did
gave
they-
us a little,
Did they
plot
include the
plan.
actual plans in copies for everyone?
yes.
Oh, good.
We did get
Yeah,
this.
we have that one, but there is a
Okay,
plot
so
plan.
let me, shall I add to the motion?
You are, you can modify.
Okay, so I move that we approve case number 23-011 VA, oh, excuse me, I'm reading the wrong one. It's this one. That we approve case 23-010 VA Fiorenza at 28 Cove Road in Nottingham as presented on the plot plan that came with the application. It shows the new dwelling and shows the dimensions from the property lines.
Plus the septic, right, you want it 6 foot for the septic, right, that's not on the plot plan, right?
The,
But I said as presented, Terry.
Yeah,
yeah, so the septic is
I have it, this one for the septic.
on, the larger 11x17 plan.
yeah,
It's already approved.
In the top left corner there, it shows a distance to John's property line.
I'm going to ask for approvals, it's not as critical, but for denials, it would be very critical. So that we state how, do we feel that all criteria is met for this
As part of the motion.
as part of the
Or as
motion,
part of the
please?
vote.
As part of the motion. Because it meets all criteria.
I move that we approve case number 23-010 VA Fiorenza, 28 Cove Road, Nottingham, as presented on the plot plan that came with his application, showing the setbacks for the new building, and per the septic system design done by Pete Landry that came with the application. I believe that all 5 criteria have been met, or that all, we believe that all 5 criteria have been met.
Thank you. Is, you're still seconding, Romeo?
Yes, second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that this case be approved as presented and for the plot plan and the septic design, that all criteria has been met. All those who are seated and voted in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 5-0. You have 30 days for someone to do an appeal. Just be aware of that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Welcome. So then some training from the state where they're getting particular about a state criteria. Joey needs to make it.
You might have to remind me.
Remind ourselves each time. All right, the next case is 23-011 B.A. Janice, 63 Lakeview Drive. Applications
left it all at
from
home.
Jones and Beach Engineers
Try and get here on time.
Incorporated on behalf of Joe Janice requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to allow the reconstruction of a single-family home. The proposed setbacks for the new home are less than the 20-foot requirements between the property lines or water's edge and primary use buildings, septics, and accessory buildings. The property is located at 63 Lakeview Drive in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 71, lot 38. Alana, I'm going to ask that in the future with our public hearing notices, that the reason for them to not just be that they're less than, but state what Dale has listed for them on, please. I couldn't find the denial for quite a while and didn't have any idea where we were looking for, or what we were looking for on this, because it got mixed up in the previous case, and then I did find it. Okay, thank you. All right, sir, state your name, how you're associated with this, what your address is, and give us an overview, please.
Absolutely. Barry Geyer with Jones Beach Engineers here for the applicant. This project is located 65 Lakeview Drive, map 71, lot 38. It's,
65, 63,
63.
okay?
It's 0.33 acres in the residential agricultural zone. We're here tonight seeking a variance to Article 2, Section C.3.A of the zoning regulations to allow the reconstruction of existing home within the side setback. The intent of the project is to remove the existing home and reconstruct a new home. A new home. The new home will be moved further away from the lake. We're moving it about 15 feet away further from the lake, but we want to keep the side setback at where it is. It's currently 12.7 feet from the side setback, the south side setback. The applicants would like to maintain that 12.7 feet to the side setback. The primary reason is because the house to the north is set within their side setback. The house to the south is set more in the center of their lot, and their lot is actually a double lot. So we wouldn't be impacting anybody because the distance to the side setback is the same as it is currently. And with that, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'll be happy to take any comments the board may have.
And could you discuss with us the special considerations regarding hardship?
Sure. The major hardship, you should have a copy of all the 5 criteria. The biggest hardship is, as I indicated, requiring them to meet all the setbacks would actually move us closer to the house on the north side of the property.
Anybody have any comments?
I don't happen to have that packet, so I'll just ask a question. Foundation size remaining the same?
No, we're actually increasing the size of the house.
Do you have a,
Yeah, the
Square
existing house or the existing foundation is about 733. The proposed is 1325.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Yep.
You have a picture of what the house is gonna look like.
Yeah, we do. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I'm sorry.
This is the rear. That's the side.
We don't have one of what it looks like now.
No,
different, it's maintaining the same encroachment.
Correct. But because that's what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing something larger, they need to come in. If they had stayed within the same footprint, wouldn't be here, but he's expanding, so it needs to be.
It looks like the 20-foot is maintained on the other three sides.
Anybody have anything? Terry?
Nope, I went over and looked at it.
Tough site,
What was that?
a tough building site.
She said a tough site.
Yeah, it is a tough site, yeah, you better.
Little
Wait,
steep.
It's gonna be interesting in the winter when you go down those hills.
I've never been on that part of Lakeview before.
Yeah,
I've been to cases before, early in the beginning, but I had no idea it was such a crazy road,
yeah,
roller coaster.
it is quite a road.
And then the people that dared to build on this.
Okay, no further questions. I'll have you sit back. Anybody here to speak for this case? Anybody here to speak against this case? Lana, do you remember, did we have any, anybody bring anything through? Any, abutters comments?
Yes, there's a letter.
Yes. Elizabeth Zarcardi, am I saying that correctly, I hope?
Yeah, she's the
She says
homeowner
in
to the
here,
south.
she says, I knew there was a letter somewhere. Please be advised that I own the adjacent property located at 61 Lakeview Drive in Nottingham, New Hampshire. The Janus family has advised me of their intention to remove their existing home and construct a new a new home on their property located at 63 Lakeview Drive. I have reviewed their home construction plans and I have no objection to the reconstruction of the home as set forth in their plans if it is not any closer to the property line than their current existing structure.
Yeah. You have the shoreline protection?
We do.
You filed and you've got the permit?
Correct.
Okay, that's why, because I asked the owner, and I didn't know if you were waiting until you get this approval.
No, we'd already obtained the,
Okay, so
shoreline.
you've got the shoreline, okay.
Correct.
All right, so there was no one to speak for or against other than this letter. You can stay there. Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve case 23-011 EA Janus, 63 Lakeview Drive in Nottingham, referencing the plans that came with the application, show where the new house will be and where the old house is, a set of maps, or actually surveys by Jones and Beach,
Approving the
and the
12.7.
and approving also the 5 criteria. They've been approved to our satisfaction.
Is there a second? Seconded by Romeo. Any questions? Been moved and seconded that we approve the case 23-011 Janus Lakeview Drive, which is approving the 12.7-foot setback that he came here for the variance, that all criteria of the 5 criteria, have been met. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
Thank you all very
And
much.
you have a 30-day window, okay?
Absolutely, thank you.
I think you'll be a while.
All right, our fourth case tonight is case number 23-012, BA Residences at Fort Hill, Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road. Application from Berry Surveying and Engineering on behalf of Owl Ridge Builders and Frederick Fernald, requesting a variance from Article 4, Section S8A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to build an open space development with lots having larger than the maximum lot sizing and less than the minimum frontage required. The property is located at Smoke Street in Fort Hill in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 23 and lot 11. I am familiar with this case because of the planning board, and I thought these lots that we're talking about tonight are actually on Swan.
On the what?
Swan?
I think they're on Swan, right? You're coming in off Fort Hill or Swan, whatever it's, that's what you're looking for a variance
They're
on.
going on Swan, oh, no, it is it, oh, Fort Hill Swan is further down.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank
Kind
you.
of.
Further down, sorry.
Unless I'm on the wrong property.
No, it's me in my head because I've done
That
so
would
much
be
out
bad.
that way. Forgive me.
No problem.
So go ahead,
Do overlap.
state your name and your case, please.
So my name is Christopher Berry. I'm with Berry Surveying and Engineering. In the chair's wish to be expedient, I'll keep my presentation as short as possible. But I would like noted for the record that we did prepare quite a writing for this. We want to make sure that that's also included in the board's consideration in the board's record. A brief history on this project. The Fernalds have owned it for many, many years. It's 102 acres. There are a number of special features about the property. It's got two frontages on Smoke Street and a small 75-foot piece of frontage on Fort Hill Road. Part of the property is located within the aquifer zone. There's a large wetland that sort of swaths through the middle of this and then eventually ends up down into the lake by Swan Road. And the little river flows at the rear of the project site. There's also some topographic features that are quite nice on the property. As you can see from the filings, the tax maps, and the survey plans provided, the property has sort of an odd shape to it. There's also a PSNH, or not a PSNH, there's a power easement that runs through the southern portion of the boundary. And the applicants have hired us to conduct a survey of the site as well as an open space subdivision design on the parcel. As part of that process, we took the time to meet with the planning board in late 2021, and then in early 2022, that's the planning board, under a design review consideration. And we went through 2 design reviews to ensure that we were designing the project the best way, both the way we thought was the best way, but also the majority of the planning board felt was the best way to design an open space subdivision for the site. And for those of you that are unaware, an open space subdivision determines the yield of the property through a yield plan, so a conventional layout of a subdivision. That has been reviewed by the planning board, and the total yield of the property has been approved as part of their proceedings at 25 lots. And then what we endeavor to do is take those same 25 lots and fit them creatively on a piece of property with all of the environmental sensitivity, with all of the sensitivity to the abutting landowners in mind. And in this case, again, we met with the planning board twice to try and make sure that we're doing that in the best way possible. Some iterations of this plan included a small roadway being built off from Fort Hill Road. The residents of Fort Hill Road much preferred this layout and design, where we only proposed 2 lots with minimum frontages or small amounts of frontages on Fort Hill Road. And then we attempted to cluster the rest of the residential density in areas where it made the most sense. And so we had the largest bands of upland area. They're the furthest from the aquifer zone. They're the furthest from wetland areas. And they are clustered around other areas of residential intensity on site. There's a number of reasons to do that. Obviously, proximity to wetlands in the aquifer zone is one of them, but preserving the largest bands of open area in the middle of the site and along the river to ensure that corridors for wildlife are maintained moving forward, and that we are developing as far from the river as possible. Since those design review hearings, we've filed a full application with the planning board. As the chair has indicated, she's intimate with the plans because we've been before the board a few times now with the design. And at the last planning board meeting, we were informed that 2 areas of the design that we thought we could utilize a conditional use permit for, the board was informed by town council that those areas are not specific enough in the ordinance to allow the planning board, to grant a conditional use permit for. And so as I point out in my writings in the application, many places, and I can cite them if you wish, in the ordinance, it encourages the applicant to be creative, the board encourages this behavior, frontages are to be creative, land masses are to be creative, and all in the context of developing around sensitive areas and developing around the parcel the way it should be developed. But for the fact that the ordinance specifically allows the planning board to grant conditional use permits in certain instances, and it's specific to those. It talks about, in general, the general creativity of the design, but does not specifically say that the board can grant conditional use permits to allow lots to be larger than the maximum prescribed in the ordinance, and does not specifically, in the opinion of the town council, give the board the latitude to reduce frontages below the minimum of 100 feet. And so we're here tonight asking for variances to allow for certain lots within the subdivision to be larger than the maximum prescribed. The maximum prescribed is 45,000 square feet. You'll note that the lots that we're asking for those land masses to be larger on are the lots that we've designed around other features on site. And so two of the lots, for instance, on Frederick, have perimeter buffers that are associated with them. And so to get around the perimeter buffer and into the developable buildable area, the lot has to be extended a little deeper, and therefore we go over our maximum lot area of 45,000 square feet. The interesting thing is that in a rural town like Nottingham, the rules specifically allow the planning board to reduce the lot size less than 30,000 square feet if the applicant requests and meets the conditional use criteria, but in this particular case does not permit the applicant to increase lot sizes in rural areas based on the conditional use criteria. And so I would just point that out for the board's hopefully humor. There are other areas on site where we're increasing lot areas. The two lots on Fort Hill Road. If you'll notice, I don't believe there's any abutting landowners here tonight, and I know the chair will ask for opposition later in the presentation, but the resounding voice that we heard at our original design review planning boards was that the least amount of development and the most rural character kept on Fort Hill Road was preferred. And that's what we've got designed here. We have two lots that are designed off from Fort Hill Road that have larger than the maximum prescribed 45,000 square feet. Again, those are designed so that we maximize the amount of perimeter buffer to the abutting landowners. We create necks down to the roadway system, and then the developable area is pushed far off from Fort Hill Road. And because of all those creative features, special features, if you will, when talking about the fifth criteria, we're larger than the 45,000 square feet. And those lots are closer to what would be ordinarily permitted in the underlying zone. There are a couple of lots along the Peekaboo project side where those lots are also larger because we've backed them up to a range road that cuts through the middle of the property. We've tried to create a nice square and uniform subdivision design, and so there are instances where some of the lots in that roadway alignment are again larger than the 45,000 square feet in size. I would point out that the purpose of the maximum requirement is so that an applicant does not take what would ordinarily be a marginal piece of property and design the most minimum amount of open space required per the ordinance and then develop the rest. That's the purpose of having a maximum. In this particular case, I think it's quite clear that that's not our intent of this design. We have 102 acres and we are preserving 78 acres in total of the total site. And so we are not looking to only provide the minimum required open space and develop the rest of the parcel. We've quite strategically designed this project around all of the natural features on site. There are a couple of instances in the subdivision. Two most notable are on Fort Hill Road, where the frontage is less than 100 feet in width. And I would point out that when we're talking about creativity in design, reduction in municipal infrastructure, impervious surfaces, sprawling effects of development, reduced frontages are encouraged. And it says that many times in the OSD document that we are trying to use as guidelines moving forward. Frontage, I say this in my writings, frontage is a construct of a piece of property's ability to provide for certain space and bulk standards. So if you can imagine having zoning in this town that's 2 or 3 acres in size, and you only had 100 feet of frontage, you'd create bowling alleys. And so if you have minimum lot areas of 2 or 3 acres in size and you have 200 or 200 feet of frontage requirements, you can create sort of a space and bulk standard that's rectilinear and square. And in a conventional subdivision, a conventional layout, that might make some sense. But in an area of subdivision design where we're trying to be creative, reduce the amount of infrastructure, create access into developable zones, having less frontage in this particular case is preferred. With respect to the variances that are requested here tonight, yes, they vary from the underlying standard, but I think it's important to point out that we're not here asking for variances that would allow for additional unit density on site. The unit density is fixed by the underlying space and bulk standards provided in the underlying zoning. We're asking for variances to allow us to develop the site reasonably around all of the special features that exist on site. And so I thought it was important to point out that we're not here asking for variances to allow us to develop land that wouldn't ordinarily be developed. If the variances in this particular case are not permitted by this board, there are other ways to develop the site. I point them out gingerly in my writings. Frederick Drive would be extended further into the property. It would extend beyond the wetlands, so we'd have an additional wetland crossing, or we'd have a wetland crossing, and we would develop the lots off the end of Frederick Drive differently, and we would develop the lots off from Fort Hill Road differently. I personally do not think that that's the best way to approach the project. You'd create fragmentation of an upland area, you'd create fragmentation of a wetland system by crossing it, and in this particular case, we're able to achieve all of the goals of the OSD without any of that fragmentation, but for the variances that we're requesting here this evening. So with that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that the board has.
I was gonna say, your last statement, it would be more expensive too, wouldn't it? Do that extra.
In some ways, yes.
It would be.
It would be. There would be less driveway on Fort Hill Road, so you'd have some savings there, but the roadway would of course be more expensive, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Did you bring, plans?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I didn't see anybody else put theirs up, so
it's fine to go ahead, because if they have,
Complicated case. It's a complicated question.
would you like me to demonstrate a few of the items that I just discussed?
just point out, yeah, that would be great, because it's, as you know from my comments before, your packet is a bit overwhelming, especially for some people who hadn't yet seen them. We're only here for their request of lot size and road frontage, so none of that matters. That's all being handled on the planning board side.
So the two things is maximum lot size,
Yes, sir.
and if you wouldn't mind just pointing those lots out, and then
Yes.
the second thing is the ones that are less than the minimum frontage.
Yes, sir.
And how much do they have, those minimum, less than minimum? How much frontage do they have?
So,
And more than minimum, not less.
that's right, yeah. So, Here, I'll just start on the Peekaboo side. I think this is how I move through my writings. So on Peekaboo, there are lots off the end of the cul-de-sac here that are larger than the maximum prescribed. And so you can see that 11-9 and 11-10, for example, are larger than 45,000 square feet. And the details for those are later in my plan set. But you can see, you can visibly see why. So based on a wetland location here, based on some topographic features on lot 11-9 and 11-10, by making those lots larger, you make them nicer, you make them more buildable, and it allows us to get away from developable area that we don't want to develop. There's a stormwater system here in the front of this lot. We don't want to encourage somebody trying to build too close to that. So by going with a larger lot style here, we can encourage better development and better behavior. In areas along the entrance of Peekaboo, you can see I've held the range line as the rear boundary line for all of those lots. We tried to create a nice square rectilinear lots as possible. By extending those out, some of those lots, and I point them out in my writings, are larger than the 45,000 square feet. These are fairly marginally larger. If I were to move this roadway alignment to the south, those lots would then be conforming, but I would then have additional environmental impact at the entrance. I might impact the wetland system. So there are pros and cons to what we're proposing. In this particular case, having a larger lot allows us to develop the site a little bit better, not just from a lot sizing standpoint, but also from an access management standpoint.
How many lots at that front, or lots total on Peekaboo are gonna be larger?
Check.
2 at the rear, but there's some at the front. I've had trouble figuring that out, I'm sorry.
Well,
Just wondering how many we were talking about in total, and I'm all for larger lots, because I don't like those.
so 11-9 and 11-10, 11-3 is here.
So that's on the other side that you were talking about?
Yep, and I'll get to that in a second.
Okay,
And then 11-17 in the corner.
so the first one on,
So the first one on the right, left, so 11-3, 11-9, 11-10, and 11-17. So here again, as an example, 11-3, the way we've designed Peekaboo works topographically with how this comes up over the rise, and then this cul-de-sac ends in a specific topographic location. By holding larger than the 100-foot perimeter buffer, and just holding a nice clean straight line, 11-3 is marginally larger.
and you said over the rise, that's where you're going through that, excavating out that rise, right? Okay. Is that the only area you guys are majorly impacting?
Yes, that's the only resource that,
Okay,
You have a lot of contour there, right, you're dealing with,
yes.
yeah.
they're going through it.
We're going through it. I'm describing it as taking the top off a muffler.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty good size, yeah.
There's a knob here in the center, and it comes down on both sides. These lots are also designed in the perimeter of where we're taking that knob. There's a sand and gravel S-curve in the center of this property. So the lots off from Fort Hill Road are larger than the minimum prescribed. At 45,000 square feet, these are much larger, and are much closer to, what would ordinarily be required in the general zone. And then there are 2 lots on Frederick. As you can see, to maintain a 100-foot, perimeter buffer, which is required in the OSD, we've elected to, there are 2 ways to go about that. You could have lot lines that extend all the way out to the perimeter and then mandate a buffer. In areas where we have ample room and plenty of room, I prefer to hold the lot line in 100 feet so that we're not promoting somebody going outside of where they own to touch land that they're not supposed to touch. And so by creating lot lines around the 100-foot buffer, we create sort of an odd-shaped parcel here. And that's promoted in the OSD. But as you can tell from the shape of that lot, the best developable and most square developable area on lot 11-24 is here at the back of the site. So we have all of this lot area in the front that is counting towards our 45,000 square feet. Nobody's really gonna be able to do anything with. And so we've enlarged that lot area to ensure that somebody has a reasonable use of that parcel. And the same thing here with 11-25. Here again, I tried to hold a nice square line, rectilinear lot, which we try to encourage when we can. And if the board weren't inclined to allow that lot to be wider than 45,000 square feet, I could adjust the lines, I could make them crooked, I could do things to make that lot smaller. But if you look at the totality of planning subdivision like this, it's just don't think that that's the best approach.
And is it the, Frederick is the one that's near the power lines, right?
That's right, so there's a power line easement at this scale, it's hard to see, there's a power line easement that runs to the corner of the property here. And so we've designed Frederick around, some topography on site, and we've designed it around that feature while trying to keep 100-foot, buffer from, all of the abutting.
And can you explain why those two lots are off of Fort Hill and not, why they don't come in further to allow for the road frontage? What's the hardship there?
One more time, I didn't understand.
The lots on Fort Hill,
Yeah,
that's the one that doesn't have the road frontage, correct?
that's correct, yeah.
Why is it those can't be moved back to allow for the road frontage?
Because the road doesn't come, the only piece they have is that little piece out on the very end.
To make these lots conforming for road frontage, we would extend Frederick out further
Across that wetland.
across the line.
Right, but the entrance instead is off of Fort Hill, which makes sense. But the lot itself, that you can't go in further,
Come in this way.
yes.
So if we came in further with the lot, it would not change the frontage.
Okay.
So what is the frontage for?
Each lot has 37 and a half feet of frontage
Instead of 100.
instead of 100.
Instead of 100, but we allow
So you
20
have-
feet on back lots.
That's correct.
But you have, I mean, you need 100 feet of frontage. You've only got 75, that's what you're asking for the variance, but, I mean, that would be, you would have to ask for a variance on just one lot, right?
Any way you look at development off from Fort Hill Road would require relief.
Yeah, one.
And that's why I'm saying, for us to develop this parcel here, which the applicants want to do, we would have to either take our frontage off from Fort Hill Road, or extend Frederick out and around.
And that's a common curb
What's that?
cut. That's a common curb cut.
And that would be a common curb cut, which is allowed in subdivision. And what we propose to do is make sure that it's common right down the boundary line, and then branch off down, which again is permitted in the subdivision regulations, as long as it's on a common line, and as long as there's provided. The alternative would be, extend, at one point we had, shown a road through here with, a cul-de-sac, and we could balance the residential density differently. There were mostly cons associated with that, so we went with this approach. Again, as I pointed out, if we extended Frederick, we would have additional environmental impact. We're trying to avoid, yes, there would be additional cost to the applicant, to do that. We simply feel that this is the best approach. As I point out in my writings, I use the word construct. Frontage is a construct of a zoning mechanism to ensure that residential density remains common in your town, and that's really pretty well proven when you consider the backlot ordinance or the flag lot ordinance that you have, where essentially you can subdivide a lot under certain circumstances with 20 feet of frontage. And what that basically means is the amount of frontage that you have on a roadway in certain circumstances is really not relevant to the grand scheme of the total space and bulk standards of the lot.
You may have stated in your opening, it's between here, the lots above, outside, that's not a part of the easement. It is more down on Flutter, if I recall.
One more time.
I guess simply said, the land like in between here
Yes, yeah.
is, what's the end ownership of this?
That would be under a conservation easement.
Okay.
That would be owned as a group, and then there would be a monitoring program on it.
Understood, yeah. But that's not part of the, I think the Flutter Street is a different conservation, okay.
That's right.
Understood.
So the 102 acres that we're looking to develop is this piece here, and it's totally separate from any other land.
Yeah, okay.
And then, again, the amount of open space that would remain is 78 acres. So the largest chunks of that are around Little River, around the center portion of the parcel. One of the reasons that we would prefer not to extend the roadway out any further, there's an aquifer zone that comes through the parcel in this general area here. Having impervious surfaces on the aquifer zone, though it is permitted, is not encouraged in the zoning document. And so having the least amount of impact within the aquifer zone, as we're showing it, is a special feature of the property, which again is why we're developing it, trying to develop the way we are.
Well, and it also keeps those two lots, which are for the family, separate from the developments, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
Anybody else have any questions?
no way to ensure who's going to own anything 50 years from now.
Well, yeah, down the road, correct, but
In the near future.
in the near future. Anybody else have any questions?
I don't.
Anybody?
Kevin asked them all.
Terry? Okay. Anybody have any speaking for? Anybody speaking against? You can come right back up. Feel like you just, like you hit the button. All right. If there's no questions, then I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept application number, where is it on here?
Right here.
23012.
There you go, you can read that.
BA Residences at Fort Hill and Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road, Fort Hill dash Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road. As according to the plan that was presented with this application, done by
Oh,
Barry.
that's the old one. That's not,
It's really,
okay, you got it, it's according to this.
it's really gonna be two separate variances, okay?
Correct.
So we should just make one
So we're gonna
motion.
vote separately?
Yeah, I would, for separate variances, yeah.
Because one is for the lot size and the other is for the road
Okay, but
frontage.
the application is for both.
Correct,
So the case is for both, so.
correct, so you can do. Is there anybody here who would vote differently on one to the other?
I would vote, that one with the, on,
The road
Fort
frontage.
Hill, I would vote for one lot, but I
Oh.
wouldn't vote for two.
So you're, then
You
I,
want it broken down into two different
Right,
motions.
Two different votes then.
Two different votes.
Okay.
so it's for lot size.
I move that we approve case 23-012 EA Residences at Fort Hill, Smoke Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road in Nottingham, New Hampshire. Taking first the case of the two lots off of Fort Hill Road.
So that is,
Require a reduction in frontage.
okay.
I vote, I think the 5 criteria speak to the attributes of this particular part of the parcel. And I move that we approve.
Okay, it's been moved. Do I hear a second to approve the request from Berry Surveying and Engineering on behalf of Elridge Builders to have less than the minimum road frontage required on Fort Hill Road?
Second.
Seconded by Romeo. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
If this is not approved, then they would have to come in off of Frederick and,
They won't.
excuse me?
They won't.
Okay.
I would approve one, but I wouldn't approve two. That's my only point.
Right.
So your issue is that there's two lots? Two lots? Terry, is the two lots off of Fort Hill?
That was a motion for two lots, but I would approve one lot off Fort Hill.
I think where we allow two lots, with one lot having 20 feet of frontage, and we approve a lot of lots in this town with less than 100 feet. Where it's a joint road to just two lots, it's then going to split, and it's not very long. I think it's a reasonable request.
What is the acreage of each of those lots? What do you got,
One is just shy of 3 acres, the other is 3 acres.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the request from Berry Surveying and Engineering on behalf of Owl Ridge Builders for less than the minimum road frontage required for the lots on Fort Hill Road, please signify by saying aye.
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 1, 2. Any opposed?
I'm opposed to the two, that's all. I wouldn't have a problem with one.
Okay, the, motion carries 3-0. Okay, and do we have any?
3, 2, 0.
I said 3-2-0.
Okay. The way you phrased it, it was like 3-0, but it's not. It's 3, 2, 0.
Correct.
Thank you.
TWO.
That's right.
3-4, 2 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay, and so we still have the lot size.
I move that we approve the request for larger than required lots. That sounds silly. Larger than required lots. Wait, I need that application number again, sorry. Remember?
23-12
Okay.
VA. Oh.
Twenty-three 012 VA residences at Fort Hill, Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road in Nottingham. I move that we approve the request for larger than required or larger than allowed lot sizes for those lots that we were shown tonight.
For the reason that they meet the hardship criteria, Bonnie?
Yes, if they meet the 5 criteria. And you can reference also their map, which shows the layout of the lots. The Berry Surveying.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by, it's been moved by Bonnie that we approve the request from Berry Surveying and Engineering on behalf of Owl Ridge Builders to accept the lots larger than the minimum sizing for the open space development.
Should be maximum size.
Excuse me, maximum, yes. Sorry, it's getting late for me.
Yes.
Seconded by Romeo. All right, any questions? No, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that's a 5-0.
Thank you. Enjoy your night, thanks.
You too.
We used to drive, I was gonna say to you, when I was a kid, we used to drive from Smoke Street and come out on Fort Hill with my father's pickup truck until we hit a tree and then we took off.
Father in the truck.
That's how open it was, you could drive right through there.
Why'd you hit the
Okay,
tree then?
continuing on, we have our last case tonight, last but not least, certainly. Case number 23013, V.A. Dowling, 99 Lakeview Drive. Application from Nancy Dowling requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to allow the construction of a deck that will infringe on the water line setback. The proposed deck will be 18 feet from the water line where 20-foot setback is required. The property is located at 99 Lakeview Drive in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 71, lot 17. Now, are you the applicant?
Yes, I am. I'm Nancy Dowling, 99 Lakeview. Owner, yeah.
The
you're
owner, I
app-
applied for it. Go ahead.
I'm the owner.
Okay, are you speaking at all to the case? You need to state your name and your address, please.
Well, I don't know if it's
Just
99
speak.
Lakeview, Rob Bouchard, I'm on level construction, I'm her partner.
Okay, all right. Good.
So, we're here to, the deck is 40 feet long and about 6 feet of it is, too close. So it's about 18 feet versus the 20 feet. I know Terry went out there and looked at it yesterday, I yelled at him on the camera. And, so we're here to, get a variance on that. I did not, know that I had to submit a letter. One of my neighbors wrote a letter on, my behalf. She lives in Somerville, Mass. So it was kinda hard for her to come up here during the week. She only comes up on the weekends, with no opposition. So the original, we thought the deck was on the original plan, the original permit. It wasn't. Dale had come out, and we have a slider there and French doors. So we thought it was on the original permit, and it wasn't, and, we're here to see if we can, have a variance. We plan on living in this property year-round, after we're doing a little bit of construction on the property. So we end up, we're going to be full-time residents in Nottingham, hopefully within 6 months. And to, have the deck there, it would just allow us access to the outside. I don't have to go up and down stairs. I have a lot of orthopedic issues, so I just, I wanna live on the deck. I don't wanna go up and down the stairs to be, using the grounds and so forth, and that's it. I don't know if you want this letter from, Debbie Lentini.
Thank you.
Maybe the hardship.
Pardon?
She could tell us about the hardship.
Ask.
So, well, the hardship just being, we already have the sliders, we already have all the construction in place on the outside of the property. We won't have access to, the outdoors, and we, and it's only 6 feet of it, it's not the entire deck.
Only 6 feet of it is within the setback.
Yes, only 6 feet of it is out of the, out of it, so only 6 feet of it is 18 feet to the water, whereas the,
There's 20 or more.
No,
yeah,
way more.
yeah, whereas the rest of it,
If you look at the plot plan, you'll
30,
see
yeah.
where the dock is. See where the dock is 18.6 feet from the deck. The rest of it goes out to 25, 28 feet. It furthers out on both sides, you're sorry.
That didn't come in.
Yeah.
I was all for it till you yelled at me.
oh, yeah. Well, I can't tell you how many people walk down that driveway, and
No, I know.
uninvited.
It was I was
Why
out
we have
there.
cameras.
I was
you
out
see me
there
there
and
today?
nobody was
Oh,
there,
no.
and
You
she
were the other
she had
day? You didn't
camera,
go
she
off.
was talking.
You were there, I was there sleeping. No, I was inside painting.
It's mostly for wildlife.
It looks like from the slider to the edge of the building is about 4 feet.
From the slider to the edge of the building. Yes, that's the master bedroom.
Yeah, yeah.
That's correct.
And, to take off 6 feet, you'd be in the middle of the slider.
Yep.
Yep.
And then the same thing on the other side where it is, where the French doors are. And it was a simple oversight on our part, and I don't know if it was Dale's too, but I originally put through the plans for the building permit, and there was a deck there, but it was a screened-in deck on the original house. My original permit was from a 4-pitch to a 10, dormer out to the lake, French doors, slider out of the master. So I figured, how do you get out? You go on the deck. And then
Or
Dale's.
stairs.
Yeah, but I mean, stairs would kinda be, if I were to do stairs, I'd have to get approval from, NHDES. The deck, NHDES said as long as I don't use sonotubes, I'm fully approved. So they said there's no permits to pull for that. And then Dale asked me what I was using for footings and sonotubes. I said I'm using kickstands, 6x6s down to the foundation. It's only a 5-foot deck.
So you're renovating, not building.
Well, we renovated.
Well, the original house is still there, it's just the outside looks a little different. We didn't change the footprint when we did anything.
The application before us is to, approve or not the, deck that is 18 feet, the 6 feet of the deck is 18 feet from the water line instead of the 20. Any other questions for them? No? Kevin? Anything?
Nope.
Kathy? Bonnie?
I don't think so,
All right.
yet anyway.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak for or against this? All right, seeing no discussion, I'm gonna close the public hearing, which I've forgotten to say all evening long, forgive me. Is there, a motion?
I move that we approve. Did you wanna do it?
Go ahead.
Go for it. I can't even find the front page yet.
I just went to the front of the book.
Case 23-013, PA Dowling, 99 Lakeview Drive. The proposed deck will be 18 feet from the water line where the required setback is 20 feet, as shown in the design.
Yeah. All 5 criteria you feel is met? I'm sorry? You feel all 5 criteria has been
Oh,
met?
yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for a variance from Nancy Dowling for a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance for the deck that is within 18 feet of the water line where the setback is 20 feet. Any questions? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's a 5-0, and I'd say you have 30 days, but y'all have already started the construction, so.
That was the quickest one. We should have been first.
You'll have to pull it down for 30 days and then put it back.
Somebody could
I
appeal.
built the deck in a day and a half.
If they fail.
Excuse me?
Somebody can appeal, and if they prevail,
Okay.
you would have to rip it down.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you
we
can
have-
take
I
your
mean-
chances or not.
I mean, we have approval from all of the butters, so.
Okay, well,
It
thank
doesn't
you
have
so
to be
much.
in a butter.
Oh,
It
really?
can be anybody.
Oh, we didn't know that. Well,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was,
Thank you for hanging in.
interesting. Thank you. No problem.
All right, so, not bad, folks. Did our 5 cases.
bad.
Public comment. John, do you wish to say anything? No, not at all. Not at all, okay. We have no other public here, so we'll move on. We moved our September 19th meeting to the 12th, correct, everybody? So we will be meeting on September 12th. That means, the due date for deliverables has passed on that, correct, anyway? Alana, for September's meeting?
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
Let me look, zoning, September 19th, August 21st, so it's next week. And then we would get that means it's a little tougher on you because you'll have zoning and planning board for getting things out, and I apologize for that. Does it, if you need me to come in and help you make copies or something, just give me a holler, okay? I'll help you with that. Staff board member updates, anybody have anything? Kevin? No? Bonnie?
No,
No. Welcome aboard. This was quite the meeting to be coming for. You should you will in the future have packets to be able to look at ahead of
Wish I knew
time.
what you guys were talking about.
You'll catch on, you'll catch on.
Sorry, I just didn't have enough time to copy all
That's
those
all right.
cases for you, so definitely, did you fill out the contact?
Yes, and I'm gonna hand
There's
this,
an email address on there?
Yes.
I do communicate a lot by email, just to let you know.
Okay.
But I will mail it.
That's fine.
and there, could you send him links for the training? From the NHMA training and stuff that he can go to, that'd be great, thank you. And minutes, I did not get an opportunity to look over the minutes ahead of time, did anyone else?
I did not.
You did not, did you? Good.
I wasn't here anyways.
I move we,
Postpone the
consider
minutes?
the, approval of the minutes at the next meeting.
Okay, so move the minutes to the next meeting, which means the only thing we have left is adjourning unless somebody has something.
Our meeting for the planning board,
Oh, thank you for bringing that up,
not the
please.
23rd.
It's-
Do I have the floor, Madam Chair?
Pardon me?
Do I have the floor, Madam Chair?
Do you have the floor? Yes, why?
I'm just teasing.
I was saying, thank you for saying that.
It's now not the 23rd, it's the 30th?
That is correct.
Okay. There was a message about a agenda of topics,
Correct?
and how do we get topics into that?
You.
Alana?
Alana?
Okay. Do I need a copy?
Pardon me?
Do I need a copy?
CC all of us, you mean?
Yes, or, well, no, I don't do that, but I shouldn't do that, but you.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be great. Alana, when did you want, or does it matter?
There was a date on the email, oh, the 23rd.
Okay.
Ed was asking if you could also CC him with any ideas to add to the agenda.
Okay.
He wanted the deadline to
Understood.
And he should.
Are there any ideas that we should vet now? I have a couple.
Okay.
Share them.
Does anyone else have any ideas?
I've thought of someone, I'm in the shower, but I'm not sure I brought them with me.
Well, we had talked about a couple of things because of the fact that there's so many of these cases from the lake coming to us for the, with the setbacks and stuff, so we talked about some about that, but what do you have?
Well, I have a case from a month ago, and that's the quantity of animals, and
Yes,
I said, within the zone, what's the right word, the water zone of the,
Aquifer zone.
was it aquifer?
Yeah, it was aquifer.
Specific to that, to the lake there, okay. So, I guess we're trying to get the right words to put it into an email, and you're taking some notes, and you articulate real good, so maybe these ideas can come from our chair, right?
I did bring it up at the planning board meeting, that would be something we would need
Okay.
to discuss.
And then today, this one just popped up, this open space development, why a maximum lot size? I mean, I would think you'd try to put in 2 acres if you could, and maybe it's just an understanding of, he's tried to describe it, why there is a max lot, and I don't quite get it yet. So maybe just an understanding, I'll point to you or anyone else who might be able to explain it, but, I would think you'd go for the biggest ones you possibly could, even in an open space development, so that's just a,
Maybe because it takes away from the common preserved land where you can't do anything. I mean, I imagine that's the thinking. I'm only imagining.
but, Sure.
And also, if they take advantage of the 100-foot,
I don't see why you have a limitation on the maximum size then.
but one of the reasons might be because the road frontage is reduced, and if you add acreage, you end up with spaghetti lots, long skinny
Well,
lots.
no, there might be
lot of them on my
might be on a cul-de-sac with pie-shaped lots that could be much larger. There's all sorts of reasons why the lots could be larger, but why would there be a maximum size? I don't get it. Good question.
Yeah, and John made he made a definition that I just need to drill down on to get a little more understanding. It has to do with a developer, right? They're coming in for a plan and to maximize the amount of profit, but also you best use the land, so I can start to get it, but,
Well,
maybe that is not a question, maybe that's just a definition for maybe
I
some
think,
of us.
and we don't get asked that question very often as a board. I think it's a good thing for us to look at. So in a way, I can understand it, although I think the lots are pretty small. It could be bigger, the max
Right.
could be bigger.
So why don't we'll bring that forward, and, I do hope to see most of you at that joint meeting.
I think this is, on all the years I've been on the board, I think this is the first case that's come in with an open space for bigger lots, so.
Yeah, most of it is usually
Yeah.
handled at the planning board level.
Well, we found it too, is because there was just a change in our, that was voted in, during last election.
Right.
Because there was a subdivision just like this on the lake, off the road or whatever, and there was two lots that were oversized. And they couldn't do the denial because it wasn't set up, right, so this is why you're,
Oh, so they added it, you mean,
yeah,
to the zoning ordinance?
yeah, that's why you're seeing.
Interesting.
Then the ask
this
is,
is a
then
thorn.
the ask is, can the max size be increased? That might be the question, you know?
Yep.
It's, what, 45, so that's an acre-ish, so why can't it be an acre and a half, or 2 acres, so.
Well, we could talk about it with them at the meeting.
Okay, those are the 2 things I had.
Perfect. Anybody have anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
I'll
Second.
second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned, and the
You're out of here.
recordings can go off.